When you look at Singapore's incredible skyline, what do you see? Steel, glass, concrete, right? But what if I told you there's an invisible framework holding it all up? One that's just as crucial as any steel beam. It's the legal blueprint for how buildings get built. And today, we're going to dive right into it.
So what really holds a skyscraper together? I mean, of course, the engineering and the materials are vital, but the true foundation, the thing that comes before all of that, is a complex web of laws, contracts, and professional duties. So let's peel back the curtain on this invisible world.
You know, the best way to think about this is to imagine every building has two blueprints. There's the one you know with the walls and the wiring, but running right alongside it is this legal blueprint. And that's the one that dictates every relationship, every responsibility, and every single risk right from the ground up.
So what's this legal blueprint made of? Well, in Singapore, it pretty much stands on three main pillars. First, you've got contract law. That's the agreements between everyone involved. Then there's tort law, which covers professional duties and, what happens if someone is negligent. And finally, you have specific statutes. Think of these as the official rulebooks that govern safety, payments, and how the pros have to behave.
Every single project kicks off by assembling a team of highly regulated professionals. And these aren't just suggested roles. Their involvement is legally essential. You literally can't get anything built without them. So let's meet the key players.
First up, the architect. We usually think of them as the visionaries, the designers with the grand ideas. But in the legal world, they've got another absolutely crucial job. They administer the building contract. They're the ones who make sure the project follows that contractual map. And it's not just a casual thing. Their entire profession is strictly governed by the Architects Act. Next up is the professional engineer. Their job is to make sure the architect's beautiful vision can actually stand up safely and work the way it's supposed to. They are the guardians of structural and mechanical integrity. And just like architects, they're highly regulated, in their case by the Professional Engineers Act. And then there's the person watching the money, the quantity surveyor. You'll often hear them called cost consultants. Their job is to manage every single dollar, from the very first estimates to the final bill. They're the ones making sure the whole project is financially viable. So the crucial point here is that each of these professionals has their own distinct, legally defined lane. As you can see, the architect handles the design and the contract. The engineer is focused on making sure it's all structurally sound, and the quantity surveyor manages the finances. And importantly, each one is overseen by their own professional board to make sure there's accountability.
Once the team is in place, the next huge decision is choosing the type of contract. And believe me, this isn't just paperwork. This is the master plan that defines the entire project structure, its relationships, and who holds all the risk.
Now, there are really two main paths you can take. With a traditional contract, the design and the construction are separate jobs done by separate companies. But with the design and build contract, the owner hires a single contractor to handle the whole shebang, from the first sketch to the final brick. It seems like a simple choice, but it completely changes who's responsible for what. So let's just quickly walk through that traditional method. It's a very clear, step-by-step process. First, the owner hires the design team. Then, that team creates the plans. After that, they invite contractors to bid on the job, and they pick one to build it. The key thing here is that the responsibility for the design stays firmly with the owner's team. Okay, with millions and millions of dollars on the line, what happens if a contractor just fails to deliver? That's where a crucial financial tool comes in. It's kind of like an insurance policy for the project owner.
It's called a performance bond. It's basically a guarantee from a bank or an insurance company. It says that if the contractor doesn't fulfill their obligations, the owner can claim a big chunk of money to help cover the losses. It's a very powerful safety net.
And we are not talking about small change. A typical performance bond in Singapore is worth somewhere between 5 and 10% of the entire contract value. Just think about that for a second. For a major skyscraper project, that's a huge amount of money held as security. Now, this is a really fascinating legal distinction. In a lot of places, like the UK, stopping a payout on a bond is incredibly difficult. You basically have to prove outright fraud. But Singaporean law has a lower bar called unconscientiability. Think of it this way. Fraud is like proving someone cheated at cards. Unconscientiability is proving they played the game in a deeply unfair or bad faith way. Even if they didn't technically break a rule, it offers much broader protection. So beyond the individual contracts and bonds, there are major laws that set the rules of the game for the whole industry. And many of them were born out of necessity and, frankly, some very painful experiences.
This quote gets right to the heart of why Singapore's building laws are so strict. The tragic collapse of the Hotel New World in 1986 was a national trauma that led directly to the creation of the Building Control Act, a law designed to make sure a disaster like that could never, ever happen again.
One of the most important things that came out of that act was the creation of the accredited checker. This is a completely independent, highly experienced engineer who has zero financial stake in the project. Their only job is to double-check and approve all the key structural plans. It's a mandatory, independent layer of safety verification.
Another landmark law tackles one of the biggest problems in construction, not just here but worldwide: cash flow. It's called the Security of Payment Act, or SOPA, and it was created for one key reason: to make sure money flows down the chain and that contractors actually get paid on time.
So how did SOPA change things? Well, for starters, it made those dreaded pay-when-paid clauses illegal. That's where a subcontractor could be left waiting forever just because the main contractor hadn't been paid. It also established a right to regular payments and, crucially, created a fast-track system to solve disputes quickly. The goal was simple: keep the cash and the projects moving.
So, as we piece all of this together, from getting the right team with the right contract to the financial safety nets and the huge laws governing it all, a pretty clear picture starts to emerge.
The true foundation of every building isn't just the concrete that's poured into the ground. It's this intricate legal blueprint, this carefully constructed system of rules, roles, and responsibilities, all designed to make sure buildings are not only impressive, but also safe, sound, and fairly built.
And that leaves us with a final thought. As construction gets more and more complex, with new technologies and new challenges always on the horizon, we have to ask ourselves, what's the next crack we're going to need to fix in this legal foundation?